Hey, hello there. Welcome to Talking with Tony. I'm your host, Tony Jones, now on YouTube. We're excited you join us on YouTube. We have a brand new guest here, a good friend of mine, Daniel Cummings, tonight from Nashville, Tennessee. He's serving as our film critic alongside John Perkison, who is our normal film critic, but no one sees more movies than Daniel, including me. Daniel, welcome. I hope you're having a good week, despite the fact that your Auburn Tigers played extremely well, but collapsed in the final seconds against the Alabama Crimson Tide.
It was a tough one. It's a tough week to be an Auburn fan, but it's a great year to be a movie fan. But yeah, thanks for having me on, Anthony. I appreciate it.
Hey, you know what? Here's the thing that I want to talk with you about. We want to preview some of the movies. We've seen several that we believe will be nominated for Best Picture. There's some that we haven't seen because some of them haven't been released yet. You said it was a great year. I want to follow up on that real quick because I think you're right. I thought last year it was okay, but we didn't have the depth that we're going to have this year. I feel very good about a number of movies coming out, some that have already hit the theaters and some still to come.
I totally agree. And I think that the specific kind of movie that we've been getting that's actually been succeeding in theaters and on streaming is really encouraging. And there's a lot of messages that I hope studios and audiences take from what we've seen this year, because it really has been kind of a return to form that we haven't seen in a long time for certain movies like Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon, along with plenty of others.
Last year, Everything Everywhere All at Once did real well. These shows, I tend to focus more on the best picture or the major awards, at least the best actors and supporting actors and actresses and whatnot. But it was released pretty early. I've always kind of believed that you get a little momentum, a little push by releasing late between Thanksgiving and the New Year, and that proved wrong. Yet there are Oppenheimer. It was out this summer. Okay, we got it looked at. Past Lives is a very good movie that's been out there for months and months and months available. Killers of the Flower Moon has been available. Now we're seeing the holdover. I may be wrong about that. It may be better to get a jump on some of the others. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like it's better to wait till close to 2020, as we would be 2024, or do you feel like it's good to get out in the summer, be a Barbie, be a Oppenheimer, and get to the lead?
I think historically it has been better to wait until the end of the year, because it seemed like the Academy has loved to award movies that are still in theaters. It kind of gives the movies that they love a little boost at the box office at the last second. Back in 1995, I believe, Apollo 13 lost out on everything because it came out in the spring. And it got a couple technical nominations, but it really just kind of got trampled. And I think that that's why. But it seems like with the age of streaming and things like that, there's a bunch of ingredients that are sort of changing the game a little bit, to where if something was a big enough moment throughout the year, like Barbie and Barbenheimer, if something made enough of a cultural impact, then it still stands a chance. And you're right, with Everything Everywhere coming out, ironically, during tax season last year, which I thought was brilliant because it was a movie about taxes. Loved it. I think that really might kind of indicate that things are moving in a different direction, which I'm happy about, honestly. I don't think that it should have to do with proximity to the awards necessarily.
Yeah, and just to follow up on what you just said there, you were a fan of Everything Everywhere All at Once. I was not. Just too much going on there. I felt like too many genres being covered. We had rocks talking to communicate with each other. It just wasn't for me. I thought the first like 10 minutes were okay, and then I'm like, what am I watching here? What am I doing here? But you felt differently. You really liked the movie.
It wasn't my pick, though. It was absolutely not my pick. I loved Banshees of Inisherin, and
I did too.
Way more. Top Gun Maverick I liked more. I might have even liked Fabelmans more. That it wasn't necessarily my kind of movie through and through, but I did really enjoy it. Yes. I also felt like it was overwhelming, but I loved it.
For some reason, neither one of us has a vote with the Academy for Best Picture, and they need to fix that, because we are certainly enthusiasts, and we're certainly we can hang with anyone talking histories of movies. I was flipping through channels earlier this week and actually landed on two movies that I'd seen, both with Academy Awards experience in the past. The Verdict in 1982 didn't win any of the category, but it's a fabulous movie. Paul Newman did a great job in that movie. You find yourself pulling for him, even though he's despicable, really. person the movie got nominated for. He got nominated. The movie got nominated. Mason was in his later on in life, and he got nominated. And he's crooked attorney on the on the other side. And then Hannah and Her Sisters also, which Michael Caine did win a Best Supporting Actor because both of his Academy Awards are Best Supporting Actor. And Hannah and Her Sisters was just a brilliant cast with the Woody Allen had there. And so we know movies and movie history. And I think that I would agree with you. If we had a vote for the Academy last year, we both would have voted Banshees of Inisherin first.
Yep, absolutely. And it's funny that we say that because I don't understand who the Academy is. I hear filmmakers saying, oh, it's never going to win an Oscar. So it's not them. It's not filmmakers, it doesn't seem like. I hear critics talking down on the Academy, and the audience talks down on the Academy. So who are these people? I don't understand who is voting.
Well, there are some studio people for real, because sometimes you'll see two studios merge together to put on a picture. And I think it's a brilliant move by them because then they can double up their votes for a certain category. So I see you see some combined projects working there. And of course, as expensive as these things are to do today, yeah. And I hadn't even planned on asking you this, but I got to get your opinion on this too. I love Killers of the Flower Moon, but 3 hours and 26 minutes is a long, long time. And if they're not happy with what's going on at the movie theater as far as movie sales go, maybe they could make a movie 2 hours long instead of 3 hours and 26. And that way you could show it 2 more times during the day and make some more money. I mean, when you have these movies, even The Holdovers, which I just saw, extremely long movie, yet again, Babylon, I remember last year, I was like, is this thing ever going to end? Feeling this way. I mean, there's other movies. And I know that you and I agree that in Oppenheimer, although it was really, really long, we find it hard to what would we have took out after we watched it because it all seemed relevant. But you have to agree with me that the movies are getting a little bit ridiculous and that we could do these in 2 hours.
I disagree with Killers of the Flower Moon because I'm a Scorsese fanboy through and through. But I think that kind of decision would be made on any filmmaker who's not a legend. I mean, except for Damien Chazelle with Babylon, you're right. He made a 3-hour movie and it flopped. And so they do have to be wondering what's going on with that. But yeah, I agree that this year I heard someone say 2.5 hours is the new 2 hours. Like 2 hours used to be what movies kind of shot for. And now it's 2.5 hours. It's crazy. I've never seen more 3-hour long movies in 1 year. And for me, I don't mind so much, but I know that if you take 10 of my friends, 9 of them are not going to want to go sit in a theater for 3 hours, which is tough. And I know Killers of the Flower Moon was initially slated to be an Apple TV movie, and it eventually hit theaters because Top Gun Maverick did so well. And I know Paramount decided, okay, we got to put it in theaters. And so it wasn't intended to be a theater experience, but I'm very glad it was. But yeah, you're right. It's I do think that there is a sacrifice that they make when they make something 3 hours long. But man, it worked for me a couple times this year.
True or false? Now, you went and saw Taylor Swift's Eras Tour thing at the theater?
I didn't.
Okay, that's fair.
Despite my wife's best efforts, we did not go see that movie.
Okay, I'm going to admit something to you where I refused to go see Barbie. I did do the Taylor Swift Eras Tour, and
was it pretty good?
Yeah, it actually exceeded my expectations, to be honest with you. I'm not a Swiftie. I respect her talent. I think she's the most influential person in America, probably in the world. I think Travis Kelce needs to go ahead and just marry her because if he doesn't, the Swifties will end his career. I really appreciate her talent. I know she's an entrepreneur and all, but her ability to write songs from the time she was a kid and either transform from a country artist to whatever this is that she does now. I may not be the biggest fan, but I can respect the talent. And when she gets out there and plays the guitar and plays the piano and does certain dances on the other song, I can appreciate that talent. And where I don't know every word to every song like a lot of people did in the theater, there are about 7 songs of hers that I will have no trouble having that other thing in the other room asking it to play, including Anti-Hero, one of her more recent songs, I think, off this Nightmares deal, or Midnights. I think it's Midnights. But I don't know her whole catalog, and I don't really have any interest in it. But the 6 or 7 songs that I really know, I like a lot, and I respect her her ability, and I can see the pull that she has.
Mhm. No, absolutely. And people, it's becoming fashionable as she gets more and more popular, like with anything, to disrespect her. And I understand her music might not be for you, but you can't stay at the top for this long without having incredible decision making. I mean, she has to have such a good head on her shoulders. And I'm not totally against seeing the movie because I have heard the production is just gorgeous. And I much prefer seeing it, in a theater for $10 rather than seeing it for $600 in a stadium. So I'm not totally against it. But a funny story, it actually, I think it came out the weekend before Killers of the Flower Moon. And so there are these, quiet, intimate moments in Killers of the Flower Moon, and I can just hear blaring through the walls, Antihero and Cruel Summer. And so that kind of made me a little upset with the movie for a minute there, but you know.
I went to the restroom during Killers of the Flower Moon. I've seen it twice, which is a long time to sit 3 hours and 26 minutes at a movie theater and see it twice. But I went to the restroom because a guy my age, and of course I'm addicted to Coca Ices, and they go right through me. So I can't make it 3 hours and 26 minutes without going to the restroom. I was happy to only have to go once, to be honest with you. But when I was in the restroom, I could hear the songs playing, to your point, basically echoing exactly what you just said. All right, I want to get to some football picks. We're gonna kind of, instead of throwing all the football picks out at one time, to be fair to Jake, who always likes to put these up on the screen, I've got all the panel's members. And I'm going to tell you, I'm coming off my worst week. I gave out 4 picks last week and they all lost. So I am 43-33 this year against the spread. That's still the tops in the country. That's still better than ESPN's people on their ESPN bet, as well as Stanford Steve, who's like 13 games under 500, and Scott Van Pelt, who's like 5 games under 500. But I went from 43-29 against the spread to now 43-33, and had a couple of heartbreaking losses last week as well. This week I'm going to go with Texas minus 14, and it's in the Big 12 championship game. I've got Miami, Ohio plus 8. And the reason I'm taking Miami, Ohio, everybody else on my panel took Miami, Ohio, which usually means go run and take the other side, which would be Toledo, but not this time. Those are my 2 college games on Saturday. Texas Longhorns minus 14 and Miami, Ohio plus 8. And in the NFL, I'm throwing in a little bonus game. I've got the Chargers. Chargers favored by 5. I'm going to take them against the Patriots because the Patriots are really reeling, and Mac Jones may be the worst quarterback in the NFL. And then I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers minus 2. They're on the road. I've been given some English Premier League picks. I'm 4-0-2 this year, giving English Premier League picks. I'll go with Newcastle United, who is a slight favorite against Manchester United. Newcastle United minus a half a goal. And then I'll take under 2.5 goals with Crystal Palace versus West Ham. That game on Sunday, so you get one on Saturday, one on Sunday. I'm going to go ahead and run down before we get back to Daniel Kevin's picks. He's 11-11 against the spread this year. He's got Oregon minus 9.5 in the Pac-12 championship game on Friday night. He agrees with me with Texas minus 14. Everybody's on Miami, Ohio, so he's got Miami, Ohio plus 8. He goes with Tulane minus 4. He takes his alma mater, the Georgia Bulldogs, minus 5.5. Florida State, he likes the Seminoles in the ACC championship game, the game that everybody in the country who's hoping to get in the college football playoff is watching. They are minus 3.5. His 5-star is Iowa plus 23 points against Michigan in the Big Ten championship game. I'm heartbroken after my Ohio State Buckeyes lost to Michigan. And then his 2 NFL games, he's got the Atlanta Falcons minus 2.5 and the San Francisco 49ers. He's on there with me minus 2. We will announce Brian, Stormy, and Danny's picks shortly. I actually wish I could be with you this weekend when those championship games are going on, because my New York Rangers are in Nashville Saturday afternoon. We're having a dream season this year playing the Predators. And I don't know if you've been to a Predator game yet, but it's a great atmosphere. It's a fun time.
Yeah, we actually went to one of the preseason games last year. It was a ton of fun. The crowd is just so fun. It's electric.
Yeah. Hockey is a cool thing, especially when we get the music going in the arena and all, and the crowd's into it. All right, so let's talk some movies. Interestingly enough, because we've talked a little bit mainly through text messaging, we're seeing things so far very similar. I want to talk Holdovers with you first, because I just saw this film. You saw it a few days ago and all. I went in not with low expectations. This was not like how I bragged on the Black Phone, where I went in and had no expectations. And when I left there, I was really, really pleased. I knew this movie was going to be good. I wasn't expecting it to be this good. There were so many things that I loved about this film.
I completely agree. And I was in the same boat as you. I saw the trailers and I kind of checked out every time a preview came on. I just thought this looks, I can tell you how this movie starts and ends. And then as it got closer to time, I was hearing some really great buzz about it. And I was blown away. And it kind of every year it feels like there's kind of a movie that I feel like I want to recommend to everyone. And it's not my favorite movie of the year, but I feel like I can recommend it to any given person. And this year, it's The Holdovers.
I mean, what if you're this? Is it Dominic Sussa? How do you say his last name? What if you're this kid right now? I'm not saying he's a nothing last year, but he's not been in anything last year. And all of a sudden, his first movie role is this movie where he could get on the outside of that best supporting actor and make it, because Hollywood loves a story of an underdog. They love a story like this. But this kid is talented. He's going to have so many roles. Looking forward to. I thought he was an absolute scene stealer. Well, he's not a scene stealer because he's one of the main people, but I thought that the story is just so compelling. I would say that.
I agree. And the kid is 2 years younger than me, over 2 years younger than me. And to think your first movie, you're going opposite Paul Giamatti and what was her name? Divine Joy Randolph, whom were out of this world, and he doesn't get trampled. I mean, he holds his own and he doesn't go over the top. He's not overcompensating for the fact that he's up against one of the most legendary character actors ever. Paul Giamatti really is. I mean, he's one of the greats. And this kid just held his own and he didn't, like I said, overdo it. There was so much you could just read on his face. He was just the perfect amount of he was so human and it was so understated. There was just so much to his performance.
You said it well. The film does humanize him. He makes us believe. You know, it's like I've said that before about Anthony Hopkins. I mean, you start getting into like you see he believes the character that he's in. We certainly believe that this kid. I didn't see it coming where the four other holdovers get to go skiing, get to go on a ski trip. And once that happened, I was like, oh, no, how are they going to work this out where this movie continues to carry on? Because we've still got more than half of this movie remaining. And boy, was I surprised. And I should use the word when I say scene stealer. I think the scene stealer was actually when they were in a either convenience store or a liquor store, and the guy behind the counter goes, you know, here you go, killer, or something, or something like that, because he's listening to like the story. That was the real scene stealer to me. But they did a good job of with a minimal cast of still being creative and captivating the audience.
I completely agree. And that moment that you called out where the other holdovers leave, that was what showed me, okay, I don't know what I've gotten into. I from the trailers, I thought I know this formula. I've seen it before. And I thought the movie did such a good job of holding on to just enough of those aspects of like Breakfast Club and those movies back in the 80s where you had this group of teenagers or younger. And it did a great job of holding on to just enough of those aspects. It looks like it was made in the 70s, but it doesn't rely on it. It's still telling a story about characters who are actually human characters. It's not just a time and a place that makes you feel nostalgic. It's an actual story. And that moment when all the kids leave and you realize, oh, this dynamic is not going to be at all what I thought it was, that really showed me that I was in for a ride. And I was. It only got better from there.
And of the three main characters, I do believe when it's all said and done, Giamatti will be nominated. I think it's going to be hard from everything that I've accumulated from so far in beating Bradley Cooper in Maestro. He seems to be the leader there, and there's some even more competition. But I believe Giamatti gets nominated. I believe you're looking at the winner for supporting actress. I mean, I haven't seen anything better yet, and there's still some movies out there, but she would be my choice. I would nominate him from what I've seen, but I got to be fair. There are a lot of other movies out there, and from information that I have read, he's just on the outside looking in. He's around, if there are 5 nominees, he would probably be about 9th or 10th right now with a lot of other experts, publications. But they do a great job of carrying this movie. It's just a fantastic film. In fact, one of the 2 schools they use as a setting is my backdrop and all, which I think is very clever. And I love the fact that it takes place around Christmas, around New Year's, so much snow in those northern schools. It's just perfect.
I completely agree. It was so relatable, and I know that Alexander Payne said it was not supposed to be a cozy holiday movie, but you couldn't help but feel like it was just a movie that was there for you. I mean, it felt like it understood you, man. It was so personal. And I also think that Giamatti deserves all the credit in the world for not making this character the most hateable character ever. He could have easily been just horrible to watch, but he's just charismatic enough to really pull it off to where you don't hate him.
Was there any doubt that he was going to fall on the sword, so to speak, at the conclusion of the movie? I mean, you and I have seen a lot of movies, and you said like you knew how this was going to come out looking at the previews, but you felt what was coming certainly came.
For sure, but I want to go back and say I thought I knew exactly what was going to happen, but the movie really did take you for a ride. You know, I didn't feel like they were checking any boxes. It really did feel like an organic story.
Okay, before we transition to Killers of the Flower Moon, I want to give you Brian's football picks. He's 36-44 against the spread, but he's coming off a good week. Auburn Tiger alum took the Auburn Tigers last week as part of our teams that won 4 straight national swimming championships, and former swimmer for the United States swim team as well. But he came through with Auburn, even though they lost the game. They obviously covered the spread. So it's 36-44 against the spread this year. He's got Washington in that Pac-12 championship game, plus 9.5. He's on the opposite side. Takes Oklahoma State against Texas, plus 14. I've mentioned everybody's on Miami, Ohio, plus 8. He has Tulane, minus 4. His 5 stars, the Georgia Bulldogs. He's got the Bulldogs, minus 5.5 as his 5-star. He loves Florida State, minus 3.5. Michigan, he thinks, blows out Iowa. They're favored by 23. And in the NFL, he takes his local team, the Atlanta Falcons, minus 2.5. And he goes for the Philadelphia Eagles, plus 2. I want to backtrack. One thing I may have overlooked a little while ago, couldn't remember, Kevin's 5-star was Iowa. So you have the 5 stars, Georgia for Brian, minus 5.5, and Kevin, who's 11-11 on the year, his 5-star, Iowa, plus 23. We'll save Danny's picks to a little bit later on in the show. We'll give you Stormy's picks now. Stormy is 41-41 on the season, but he is coming off his 2 best weeks of the year. He has been on fire. He likes Oregon in that Pac-12 championship game, minus 9.5. He thinks Bo Nix is going to probably wrap up the Heisman with a huge game. That's hard for Auburn people like Daniel and I to say. Oklahoma State, plus 14. We've mentioned it. Miami, Ohio, plus 8. He has Tulane, minus 5. Alabama is his 5-star against the Georgia Bulldogs, plus the 5.5 points. Louisville, plus 3.5. Iowa, plus 23. In the NFL, he goes with the Falcons, minus 2.5. And the Eagles, plus 2. So just repeating, his 5-star is the Alabama Crimson Tide, plus 5.5. We'll get to Danny's picks after we talk more movies now with Daniel. And I want to talk Killers of the Flower Moon with you. I was so impressed by this. You don't go see a movie twice. It's 3 hours and 26 minutes. I thought Jesse Plemons might be also in the running for a Best Supporting Actor. He also looks like right now he's on the outside looking in, but I thought the movie really took off. It really gained momentum once he became part of it. I don't know if there's too many movies out there where I find myself sort of rooting for the bad guy, but I sort of found myself rooting for De Niro and Leo in this film.
No, I understand, which a lot of people are actually critiquing. They're saying the movie shouldn't have been told from their perspective. And I think I understand that there's a bunch of different ways into this story. And I kind of feel like it just is speaks to how good Scorsese is at storytelling, that he was able to tell it from 3 different perspectives. He was able to tell the FBI side of things as a crime procedural. He was able to tell the anti-hero, Taylor Swift reference, story. Not anti-hero, just villain, honestly.
Right.
The villain story of DiCaprio and De Niro's characters. But he also did go into Molly's perspective every once in a while, which I thought was some of the best scenes, when she's just in bed feeling things closing in. She's just feeling the noose kind of getting tighter and tighter, which I thought was pretty horrifying.
And that's Lily Gladstone, who I've bragged about here a few weeks ago. And Jake had some footage from her from Killers of the Flower Moon to put. And she'll be hard to beat when it comes Academy Award time too. She was fabulous, Danny.
I agree. I had not seen the movie, what's it called, Certain Women by Kelly Reichardt. I hadn't seen that film. I know a lot of people were talking about how happy they were Lily Gladstone got this role. So this is my first time seeing her in action, and she was unbelievable. Again, similar to The Holdovers, she held her own against some of the best in the industry.
No, she's well cast. Now, look, you and I feel a little bit differently about the ending of this movie. I feel like did what they did because of a time situation. We'd been a 4-hour film if they wouldn't have done. You liked the ending, how it sort of wraps up things and talks about how long these people live, who went to jail for how many years, what happened to her. We find out later her character remarries. You liked the ending.
I love the ending. I think if Scorsese, which, God forbid Scorsese never gets to make another movie, but if he never got to make another movie, there couldn't be a better ending to his career. I don't think there could be a better final moment in any of his movies for him to go out on. And I think that it really was either make it a 4-hour movie or have text like every other biopic or historical drama does, or find something unique. And I think they found something unique that really held your attention. And at the same time, it sort of stayed in the vein of this true crime storytelling. And it stayed in the world of the FBI. Like it was a radio broadcast. So it was something that obviously could have actually happened. And it really doubled down on why Scorsese felt the need to make this movie, because nobody knew this story. And now we do.
Does it make it even more enjoyable that he's the one at the end? And I think that maybe what you're saying, the fact that it's not only the way they wrapped it up, but if he doesn't ever get to do another movie, he has that moment.
It really does. And I think that it might seem a little bit self-indulgent if it wasn't handled the right way, but I thought that it was handled the right way. I thought that he was really recognizing the burden of truth that he had to take on in this movie, that there was a kind of largely untold story until the book came out in 2017, that it's a really, really ugly story. And he felt he felt drawn from the time he read the book 6 years ago to make this film and to tell the story of Molly Burkhart. And I just really think that it could have come across as kind of a wink and a nod at the audience, like the chef coming out and saying, "Look what I just did. Wasn't that incredible?" But it didn't feel that way. It felt actually very sombering to me. It didn't feel fun.
No, and you actually saw it before me, and you said some of the content is very difficult, and what they did to these people and these Native Americans is just it was just awful. It was just ridiculous, and fortunately, some paid the price, but there were many others who didn't, and there were many innocent lives that were lost as well. As good as Scorsese did directing this film, so far, nothing comes close for me than what Nolan gave us in Oppenheimer. For me, that's your best director. I don't really care I don't have to see any other film. So, and I'm going to see some more, but I can't imagine him losing as best director of Oppenheimer.
I can't either. And I'm, again, a Scorsese fanboy. I think he's buying away the best filmmaker ever. But what Nolan did with that movie was unlike anything I have ever seen. And I think it's his year because it's a historical biopic. It's what the Academy loves. And so he brought his signature style to a genre that they're obsessed with. I think it's his year.
I hope people don't forget it because it was sort of out there with past lives really, really early. It worked out for everything everywhere all at once because it should get all the consideration for best picture as well as those actors. But where I'm not sure about the who gets nominated from Oppenheimer actor wise, where I can tell you from the Harvest Killers of the Flower Moon, I can tell you right now, it'd be De Niro, it'd be DiCaprio, it'd be Gladstone. They'll all get it. And Jesse Plemons could sneak his way in there. He snuck his way in here before. But as far as Oppenheimer goes, I don't have that same just great feeling of who's going to get nominated. But I know that he's going to be he will win. I mean, it's not. I've been using this whole he's going to be hard to win kind of bit. But he will win. He did a fabulous job. For anybody who's a student of wanting to have a career in that, you need to see Oppenheimer. You need to see the challenges that he faced, understand the historic significance also of the movie, and see how he overcame all challenges.
I completely agree. I remember when I left the theater, I texted my friend who hadn't seen it yet, and I was like, it feels like we've just been playing around for the past couple of years at the movies, and he's here to show us, here's how you make a serious movie. Just from the first shot, it just feels hefty. It just feels like you're dealing with something very serious. He's so talented. I think it should get nominated for 10 plus awards.
So you're seeing a good many actors awards there falling in there too, because as well as the I guess what would be the adapted screenplay, but you see it trickling down to the sound effects and all cinematography. Obviously, is in some of those.
Editing for sure.
Mhm.
Some of the best editing I have seen in years. But I think it'll get at least 2 acting nominations. Robert Downey Jr. and Cillian Murphy. I think will both be there.
Oh, you're absolutely right about Robert Downey Jr. In fact, that might be your winner and best
Could be.
supporting actor. Actually, you are absolutely right. Thank you for mentioning that. I can get on with you there. I'm going to need to see other films before I give out my selections. But then again, where I'm generally right, I have been wrong a couple of times, and I did not like Everything Everywhere All at Once last year, and the Academy certainly did because it did very well. Want to give Danny's picks out right now. He's 56-51 against the spread. He goes with Washington plus 9.5 in that Pac-12 championship game. Texas minus 14. His 5-star will be SMU plus 4. Wanted to get that in. I told you everybody's on Miami, Ohio plus 8, so you're going to get tired of seeing the Miami, Ohio logo. The Georgia Bulldogs minus 5.5. He goes with his Bulldogs. Louisville plus 3.5. He likes Iowa plus 23. And then in the NFL, it takes the New York Jets plus 2.5 and the San Francisco 49ers minus 2. Daniel, I got about 4 minutes remaining. Right now, if you had that vote this year for Best Picture from what you've seen, and there are things that haven't been released yet, you going with the holdovers? Are you going with Oppenheimer or Killers of the Flower Moon? Or is it somebody that might surprise me?
As of right now, I'm going with Oppenheimer. I think it is a juggernaut of a movie, and I can't imagine anything beating it, including Killers of the Flower Moon, which I adored. I think that's one of the best movies in years. I've been waiting to see a Scorsese movie in theaters since 2011 when I saw Hugo. And I think that whatever you love about film, Oppenheimer nails it. It gets the emotions, it gets the propulsive pacing, the acting, the editing. It's all there. It's the best holistic movie of the year.
You With Me on Past Lives was another early release that should get nominated for Best Picture also.
100%. It's my third favorite of the year so far.
Okay, it's your third. Is the Holdovers number 2, or is Killers of the Flower Moon number 2 with you behind Oppenheimer?
Killers of the Flower Moon is number 2, and actually Holdovers isn't number 4.
Oh, crushing, crushing. Is it Bart? What's your number 4?
Anatomy of a Fall.
Anatomy of a Fall. Okay, I don't see it, but I'm here for it. How about out of these movies, which ones are you looking most forward to? Like I'm looking so forward to May, December, and it was filmed in Savannah, which is another extra little interest I have. But when you think about like The Origin coming out and American Fiction coming out and Poor Things, Maestro, which one? Give me a couple of those you're looking really forward to seeing.
Right. So unfortunately, my most anticipated for the rest of the year, The Bike Riders, got pushed back to 2024, which is crushing. I'm very sad about that. Poor Things, I was kind of fascinated by, but I wasn't sure what to think about it. I'm hearing the most glowing reviews of the year for it, though. So I'm actually really interested in it. American Fiction, I think, looks hilarious. I'm actually much more interested in that film than I was just by reading the log line. And 5 years removed from A Star Is Born, I can't wait to see Bradley Cooper get back with Maestro. I think that movie looks incredibly interesting. It looks beautifully shot too, and Bradley Cooper is one of my favorite actors, and I think he's an incredible filmmaker as well. So I would say Maestro and Poor Things, and May December is coming tomorrow. I'm gonna get to see it tomorrow, but I would probably say Maestro and Poor Things are my most anticipated for the rest of the year.
Yeah, Bradley Cooper certainly getting a lot of Oscar buzz for that Best Actor, and he is the director of that film as well. Correct?
He is. Yep, wrote it as well. Also, Zone of Interest. Looking forward to that one as well.
That was one that I didn't expect to hear. I was not surprised when you mentioned Anatomy of a Fall, but the Zone of Interest that surprises me. Hearing a little bit about that, I am jealous of you from another standpoint. You live in an area that has a movie theater or multiple movie theaters that get these movies. We have to wait, and sometimes have to wait for the streaming services. That's not your case. You really have a reliable place to go see. You'll be able to see May, December tomorrow.
Yep. Well, I think it's hitting Netflix very soon as well. But you're right. Belcourt Theater in Nashville, if you're ever in the area, is it's a movie lover's dream. It's incredible. I love it so much. When I saw The Holdovers, it was one of 3 theaters in the country showing it in 35 millimeter film. It was fantastic. I'm very thankful. But what are you most looking forward to?
I am most looking forward to The Boys in the Boat because the book I read and I thought it was one of the best books that I've ever read. I don't know how well they'll do portraying it. I don't think it'll get nominated for Best Picture. I'll be pulling for it and all, but that's a little bit one off. And May December would be the one that should get nominated that I'm looking most forward to. But I don't know if you read The Boys in the Boat, but it was a fabulous book.
I believe it. It just seems like the studio hasn't been putting in a position to be nominated for anything. They have to campaign really hard these days to get something in.
You are exactly right. I want to thank you so much, Daniel, for coming on and doing the show. And I want to have you back before the Academy Awards, if that sounds good.
That sounds fantastic. I really appreciate you having me on. This was great. My wife won't have to hear me talking her ear off about movies tomorrow because I got some of it out tonight. So thank you so much.
Oh, that's well said. I appreciate that. For Daniel Cummings in Nashville, Tennessee, for Jake Barton in Newnan, Georgia, I'm Tony Jones in Auburn, Alabama. We'll see you next time right here on Talking with Tony.